Shine with Kendéll Lenice. Real talk for real people. Let's shine together.
Welcome to season 10 of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. This is Kendéll Lenice, the remix coach. And can y'all believe this is season 10 of this podcast? This podcast started way before the waves of podcasts started during the pandemic. I have been doing this for 10 seasons. And most importantly, y'all have been rocking with me for 10 seasons of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. I thank you, God, for allowing me to be consistent in this journey and allowing you guys to be consistently supporting this podcast. On season 10 of Shine with Kendéll Lenice, we are going to be focusing on words. What words mean, breaking them down, and showing how important these words are to us. We're going to be talking about forgiveness and compassion and life, love, and a whole lot of other words, breaking them down as always for you to be better. As a transformational life coach of 20 plus years, a healing and aging coach, and so much a child of God, and so many different titles that I have. But ultimately, we are growing in this journey together. So welcome to season 10 of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. I'm telling you right now that season 10, in season 9, we talked about different kinds of healing. So if you haven't caught that, go back to listen to season 9 and beyond. Season 10, we're focusing on words and the power of words and how we can apply these words and what the breakdown really means in our lives. It's about growth. It's about learning. It's about being better. So welcome to season 10 of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. If you don't already subscribe to the podcast, please do so. Welcome to season 10 of Shine with Kendéll Lenice. I'm honored that you're back again and we're rolling again with season 10. Get into it, y'all. Y'all. I cannot believe we are in season 10 of this podcast. The Little Train That Could. Produced by God, me and God. One woman band with God by my side. Wow, I'm thinking about when I started this podcast, I'm thinking about everything that I have done with this podcast. And believe it or not, even though this is season 10, this is not my first podcast. So I'm thinking about how it was the little engine that could, and now consistently making it all the way to season 10. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I wanted to launch season 10 about 2 weeks ago, but I wasn't feeling well. And I'm still not 100%, but I did not want to wait any further. I said July 2023, I was going to kick off season 10. Last season, as you all know, if you've subscribed and listened, we talked about healing. My book, Your Unhealed is Showing, is still available on Amazon.com and KendellLenice.com. And we were focusing on different types of healing. And during season 9, I was like, words. Words have so much power. People are uplifted by words. People are stung by words. People all affected, we all are, by words and what they really mean to us, how they affect our being, our spirit, our emotions, how they affect, I should say, how we carry on through life. And I wanted to unpack and apply the words that we use in our life in a brand new way. These aren't words that are unfamiliar to you. These aren't words that you've never heard of, like forgiveness and compassion. You've heard of these words, and you may have used these words a time or two, but you might not have applied them to your life. And that's what we're going to do in season 10. So as always, please tell a friend about this podcast. Don't be stingy. Share this right now. Share the playback if you're not listening live, and circulate this, because this is not a regular podcast about current events or gossip or political news, and nothing is wrong with those podcasts. This is a life podcast about growing and being better, and life coaching, and really trying to understand us and people better, so we can ultimately be better for ourselves, be better for God, and be better for the people in our lives. So without further ado, let's get into the life note. We're still going to do the life note in season 10, and different episodes. I might do some different things. I have some great things in store, but we're going to always start with this week's life note. If this is your first time tuning in to Shine with Kendéll Lenice, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to season 10. A life note is a saying or a quote by somebody that you may recognize or not that gets you through the topic of this podcast and through your life. Something, a little nugget to take with you. So, as always, let's start with this week's life note. And welcome back, season 10, y'all! Woo, woo, woo! All right, it's time for this week's life note. All right, this week's life note is by Dr. Maya Angelou. Forgiveness. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to forgive. Forgive everybody. That's what she says. Everybody can get it. Everybody can get that forgiveness. So what is forgiveness? What is the definition of forgiveness? Forgiveness means different things to different people, right? But ultimately, of course, the action and the process of forgiving or being forgiven, right? But it's an intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. The act that hurts or offended you might always be with you, because you're not going to forget. People say forgive and forget. Let's be clear and let's understand. You may never forget, but God has a way of allowing you to forget and taking things off of the front cortex of your brain, where you would have to actually, somebody ever hurt you or done you wrong, or you like, I don't forgive them. And then as time goes by, you'd be like, I don't even remember what they did. I don't even remember what had happened. And the further that it gets, the further that it, I won't say affects you, but you allow it to take space and place in your life. And I want to talk about the word forgiveness. 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 That's a word in our vocabulary that some want to use and some never want to use. But we have been forgiven by God. It's time for us to forgive ourselves, and it's time for us to forgive other people. All right, it's time to forgive. There are 7 steps to forgiveness. Acknowledge your pain. Do not just discard it, the fact that you were hurt. And this is from calmsage.com. They have 7 steps of forgiveness. The next one, think before you decide. Think before you make any decision. Next, accept the past. Make your decision. Make amends. Take back a lesson. And finally, truly forgive. All right. So those are 7 steps to forgiveness. Y'all, it's so important for you to forgive. Now, I know I got somebody right now who's about to turn and go to another podcast that's funnier, more uplifting, because they're not trying to hear anything about forgiveness. They're not there yet. You may not be there yet, and I understand it's not easy to forgive. You can pick and choose who you want to forgive. You can decide when you're ready to forgive, because this is your life. This is your business, right? It's so important to forgive. Now, everybody doesn't believe in God. I get that. This podcast might stretch to people who may believe or who don't believe. In Ephesians 4:31-32 says, forgive as the Lord forgave you, right? Some of you may not be on that. I get it. I understand. But forgiveness is for everybody. Period. When I say forgiveness is for everybody, you owe it to yourself to forgive, because sometimes when you fester, sometimes when you dwell, it literally makes you sick. Literally. So forgiveness is more than just a word. Sometimes it could foster illness and sickness in your body. No cap. No lie, this is real. There are 4 steps to forgiveness. Responsibility, the R's in forgiveness are responsibility, remorse, restoration, and renewal, right? These are known as the 4 R's when it comes to forgiveness. If you honestly want to make forgiveness a part of your life, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're tired of being sad, you're tired of being upset, you're tired of being angry, and you want to forgive yourself or others, this may be a sign that it's time, right? All the anger, all the animosity that you have for yourself or for someone else, family, friends, former love, former friends, family that may have even passed away. It's time to let it go. Not for you, not for them, but for you. So you can be in tip-top shape, so you can be healthy emotionally and physically. It may be time to forgive. Now, I'm not here to tell you it's time to forgive everybody that you know that has hurt you, that has done you wrong. That's not my position or place to do that. But I can give you my view and my opinion, and hopefully you honor my view and opinion. That's why you're listening to my podcast, and that's why you've been riding with me for 10 years, because hopefully you respect my view and my experience and education enough to even listen. And I don't take that lightly at all. But it's difficult for folks to forgive because people are used to holding on to grudges. That's just what they do. That's what their family does. That's what they have been taught to do. I was listening to a show or another podcast, an interview with someone, and she was saying that she was taught to hold a grudge. That's what her family did. Don't talk to that person. Don't do that. And she grew up in a household where holding a grudge was normal. That's what they did. Forgive what? Ain't nobody forgiving nobody. I'm holding this grudge until I can't hold it no more. I'm holding this grudge, and some people have passed away holding grudges with folks that are still here thriving and living their lives. I remember Oprah said one time she was holding a grudge against someone for so long. She was angry with them. She was upset with them. She wasn't speaking to them until one day she saw them going on about their life happy. She saw them living their lives and they were happy and smiling and giggling. And she was like, they're not even thinking about what they did to me or what is happening. They are living their life. They're not holding a grudge. And she said at that point, she was able to release that grudge. So people like really plot like how I'm going to get this person back and thinking about ways to punish them, to make them feel what they felt and, hoping that they get hurt because we were hurt. And people are holding grudges, and it's hard to forgive because they haven't made the choice or they haven't decided to forgive said person or people. And it's difficult for them to do that. They don't even know how to do that. They don't even know how to begin to do that. And I want to give some steps to try to have you understand the importance of forgiveness. I'm going to give you some steps to forgiveness to free yourself from those who have hurt you. Even if you don't forgive them in their face and say, I forgive you, you may not have the opportunity to ever do that. You may not have the opportunity to call somebody on the phone and say, I forgive you. But you can write a letter and put everything, all the offenses on that letter. You don't have to mail the letter because remember, forgiveness is for you. And you can speak out loud to God like, I forgive them, or you can speak to whoever and whatever you believe, I forgive you. You can speak it out loud. You can write it down. You can mail it. You cannot. But you have to release it from your heart, your spirit, and your soul. You have to release it so you can go on and be the best version of yourself that I know you can be. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with steps to help you forgive. Thank you for shining with me, Kendéll Lenice. If you're here for the very first time, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the show and don't forget to tell your friends and family about Shine. We'll be right back. And before I give you the steps to forgive, some of you right now might be saying, well, I forgave him. In that kind of attitude, I forgave him. You might not have forgiven him with that attitude, and that's a sign that you might not have forgiven him. Other signs, if you're not able to be around them, hear their name, see their face, you may not have forgiven like possibly you think you have, or you said you have. You want to talk about them to everybody you know in a bad light. That might mean you haven't forgiven them. You continue to keep telling the same story about how they did you wrong and what they did, and you're taking all of these avenues to hurt or harm them in some type of way, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is. You want to tell the world about them and you still want to repay them. You haven't forgiven. If you still think about what they did and you want to cuss them out or tell them about themselves, it's another sign, y'all, you haven't forgiven them. Or if you can't stop replaying how they hurt you or pained you or what they did, you can't stop reliving it or replaying it over and over and over again in your head, then you probably haven't forgiven them. Because forgiveness, forgiveness, is truly a choice. Now, forgiving somebody doesn't mean that you have to be kumbaya and hanging with them every Tuesday or Friday night. It doesn't mean that they have to ever be in your space again. You get to decide your boundaries, and you get to talk about different things that you want to put in place so these said people may not hurt you again. You have a right to do that. This is your life, your body, your mind. You have a right to do that. But you can still forgive even if you don't become friends or close or again. So you can forgive someone without resuming a relationship with them, whatever kind of relationship that was. You don't have to. That doesn't, I think sometimes people get it twisted, like forgive means that you're best friends again. It doesn't mean that. You can forgive someone in your heart and you can pray for them and wish them well, but you don't have to be cool like that anymore. But you don't hold animosity to them. That's when you know that you have forgiven. And it's not someone else's or even my right to say when you should forgive and how you should forgive. I just want to put it out on the table to make you think about the word forgiveness as we focus on words on season 10, right? And some of you may say, you know what? I need to forgive because I'm sick, like emotionally or physically sick, because I'm holding whatever it is. And some of you out there need to forgive several people, and most importantly yourself. But it's hard for you to stop beating yourself up and replaying the same things that I said that you would replay, and ways that you can show you haven't forgiven even yourself is the same way that you can see you haven't forgiven someone else, right? It's hard to let go and forgive because as I focused on season 9 last year, healing, it is healing. It is a part of your healing journey. You can't unring a bell to some hurt. But I don't want you to create unforgiveness in your heart, because it does harden your heart and it hardens your feelings. It hardens your whole being, and holding resentment and bitterness and hatred truly hurts you. And I don't want you to be hurt in that way. I want you to move past in a different way, right? It's so important that you are able to do that for yourself, because I want to see you win. All right, so steps to try to forgive. Write down the names. As a life coach, if you were sitting in front of me or Zoom, I would say, who are the people who hurt you? Who are the people that made you feel this way, that you're unworthy, you're not valued, you're not beautiful, you're scared, you have anxiety, your emotions are on 10, like you feel abandonment or rejection or pain. Like, who are these people who hurt you physically, emotionally, or mentally, or spiritually? Who are the people? Write them down. Write the folks down on a piece of paper. Look at their names. It could be one, or it could be 15 people on the paper. Write it down. And then I want you to acknowledge the hurt and pain. Like, put yourself in the position, acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the pain, write down on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be lined. It could be all over the paper, how it comes to you. Write down the offenses that they had, why, what they did. And then I want you to write what did the hurt make you feel? Like, what are your feelings? Sad, numb, angry, mad. What are the feelings, right? I want you to write those down on a piece of paper. Then I want you to look at the paper. Some of the paper, if it's one name, you may be able to forgive. Then 15 names, 10 out of the 15. Oh, well, hey, that ain't bad. It's a start. 1 out of the 15, hey, it's a start. Excuse me. Write down the people that you may consider, or check off or highlight the people you may consider forgiving. Right? Make a conscious effort to say, you know what? They hurt me, but I choose to forgive. And then say their names and say, I forgive blank for myself. And if you believe in God, for God. Say it out loud. Pray over your list. Speak over your list. Meditate on the list. Scream at the list. Throw the list ball it up against the wall. Whatever you have to do to take the pain away. But again, forgiveness is a choice, so you would have to decide to forgive. And that's really the choice, because unforgiveness can make you sick. It can cause illness. Let me break that down. Unforgiveness is linked to higher instances of stress, heart disease, high blood pressure, lowered immune response, anxiety, depression, and other health issues, according to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Johns Hopkins study. So let me break that down again to you. Unforgiveness is linked to higher instances of stress, heart disease, high blood pressure, lowered immune response, anxiety, depression, and other health issues, according to Johns Hopkins study. Something else from Johns Hopkins. What diseases are caused by unforgiveness? Chronic anger puts you into a flight or fight mode, which I've talked about on this podcast. Go back and see if you can find that one, which results in numerous changes in heart rate, blood pressure, and immune response. Those changes then increase the risk of depression, heart disease, and diabetes, among other conditions. Forgiveness, however, calms stress levels, leading to improved health. So, if you care about your health, it's time to start forgiving, y'all. There's nobody that I don't forgive out there, because nobody is worth my health. I've already had health challenges. Y'all know I'm a cancer survivor and some other things, right? I cannot afford to hold unforgiveness in my heart. I can't afford it. I can't afford it physically. I can't afford it mentally and emotionally. And I can't afford it spiritually. I cannot. And neither can you. Because you don't want any other diseases to penetrate you, filter through your body. I know you don't. Whether you have been sick, never been sick, I don't want you to be, because you're holding it. And even if it's not a physical ailment, emotionally, do you want all of that clutter and gook in your mind? Do you want to... Sometimes it's interesting because like I talked about, you can say that you forgive, right? And certain people do bring anxiety to you, right? The sound of their voice, or the mention of their name, or the view of their face, or whatever it is, right? You can see someone in your heart, you can instantly get stressed out, instantly get anxiety, instantly start shaking. It affects. That's happened to me, y'all. I understand it, what that anxiety can do and that stress. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven them. Sometimes it might mean that you're still hurt, or you're still shaken by whatever happened in that friendship, romantic relationship, or family ship. Sometimes it still means that you're shaken. You could have forgiven, but it still affects you. I get that. I understand that. It's happened to me. I know plenty of people it's happened to, whether I was life coaching them or they just were having a conversation with me. I get that. And it doesn't mean that some of you, it means that you haven't forgiven. Some of you is still that you're still in the process of healing and making it through, right? And I get both of those. You're still healing, so it's difficult to forgive, but you can forgive out loud and still continue on your healing journey. Because I know many of you, through the contacts that you contact me, ways that you contact me, you're still on your healing journey. And some of you I'm helping on your healing journey. I'm still healing. And healing journeys never end, because it could be one thing, then it goes to the next thing. And forgiveness is just a part of healing for many of you, right? But you can still make the decision and choice to heal. Because healing and forgiveness are part of the same. So even the words that I decide to use and to do episodes of season 10 with, you still may be healing through some of those things. And that's okay. So even though I focus on healing in season 9, healing is going to be in every season of Shine with Kendéll Lenice, because that's just a part of growth and learning, and people are going to just be healing for the rest of their lives, whether they're healing their minds, healing their bodies, healing their spirits, healing their souls, healing and mending friendships, relationships, job, whatever it is, you're going to heal. That's just what life is about. You stub your toe, you're going to have to heal that. You burn your finger, you're going to have to heal that. I cut my finger, that's still healing. I'm looking at that. So it's going to be a constant healing. But forgiveness embodies so many different things, right? It means that you're freeing yourself, that you're releasing whatever was hurting you or harming you, whether it's forgiving yourself again or others. And it's living after the forgiveness. So it's freeing, releasing, and living. So you can get to know who you are outside of your hurt and pain. And many people don't know themselves as a free person, spiritually, emotionally free. They know themselves as an angry person, a mad person, a sad person. And that's not first. Those are all secondary emotions and feelings, hurt, anger, sadness. That's not a primary emotion. It's something that caused you, and they're secondary emotions. And some of you are carrying it because you haven't forgiven yourself for maybe the choices or decisions that you made. You haven't forgiven yourself for maybe hurting or saying things to other people that may have been hurtful, possibly. You haven't forgiven yourself for choices and decisions that you've made. I've talked about that in season 9. I talk about that in my book. You haven't forgiven a parent for maybe how they raised you, or a mate for how they loved you or didn't, or a friend for how they betrayed you, or you haven't forgiven. So all of those are affecting you moving forward with new energy and new people that come into your life, or even the same people that have been in your life, that stop you from being the best version of yourself. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for us. I don't want that for them. I don't want that for we. This is why this podcast is so important, because I want everybody to be better. And I say this all the time. I want you to be better today than you were yesterday, and tomorrow even more better. That's right, more better. I want you to be betterer than you were today or yesterday. All right, so we are talking about forgiveness, and that's how we kicked off season 10 with the words forgiveness. We're going to be talking about a lot of words, y'all. A lot of words that are going to help you be better. We'll take a quick break and be right back for our wow moment and our closing. This season of Shine with Kendéll Lenice is sponsored by my new book, Excuse Me, Your Unhealed is Showing, Healing Purposely and Aging Fearlessly. It's available on Amazon.com. Go cop that. Get one for you and a friend. Don't forget to leave a review. Now back to the show. All right. This season is also sponsored by my new book. So you heard me. Go cop that. All right. So it's time for our wow moment, takeaways from today's show. This week's wow moment, takeaways from today's show. All right, so I want you to get a piece of paper out, or your phone out, and your notes, notebook, journal, something. And I want you to write down or think about your takeaways from today's show. What are your takeaways from this show on forgiveness? And why it's important for you to forgive. All right, I'm going to share my takeaways. Unforgiveness will produce bitterness. It will cause you to be sick. It will cause you to be nasty to others, treating people the way they don't deserve to be treated. And I don't want any of that energy. I don't want any of that. And my takeaway is to continue to free myself of unforgiveness and practice forgiveness for myself, for my emotional health and my physical health. That is my takeaway from today's show. Think about your takeaway and think about what part of the show impacted you the most. And I want to hear from you. If you're able to leave a message here on my social medias, email, website, KendéllLenice.com, do so. I want to hear from you if you're able to, if you're listening on, because we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and YouTube. So any of those platforms, if you're able to send me a message. Please send me a message and let me know what part of this episode impacted you the most. And I want you to share this episode to as many people as you can, because there are so many people that need to hear this message of forgiveness and how unforgiveness hurts you. You can think that you're hurting somebody else by not forgiving them, but it is really hurting you as you listen to the statistics that I gave you in the ways that this can hurt you. And you don't want to be no mean, angry, bitter person. You want to live light and live free. You want to show light and you want to be free. All right. So this was a powerful way to start season 10. And I hope that you will take something away from this show, this episode, this podcast, and apply it to your everyday life, because it's only going to make you better. And this is what this show is about. This is what this podcast is about. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, you are a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your shine. Until next time, God bless. Peace. Season 10. This is the beginning. All right, y'all. I thank you, everybody who listens to this podcast. I thank you for riding with me. Again, if you're listening to Shine with Kendéll Lenice for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. I appreciate you. And to all my OGs who've been riding with me since season 1, I love y'all. Like Monique says, I love y'all for real. Thank you so much. This is Kendéll Lenice, the Remix Coach. God bless y'all. Peace. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Kendéll Lenice. And also go on over to my YouTube channel.